Hey, my name's John Fuzek. Gonna play some songs I wrote for you. This one's called A Dog's Age. I was begging for scraps, chasing my tail, barking up the wrong tree. Out of the yard, I found my way home. I wasn't sure where I should be. Had my fill of fleas and parasites, itching and scratching from their nasty bite. It's been a dog's age and I'm dog-tired. Should be chasing down the dreams that I desire. It's been a dog's age, a dog days. Shake myself from this furry haze. Love a dog sage. I've been sick as a dog, end of my leash. Collar didn't choke me. Swollen at the mouth, licking my chops. I wound up on my knees. I scrap a two with a bitch in here. Put up with her tricks for canine treats. Dog's age and I'm dog-tired. Should be chasing down the dreams that I desire. It's been a dog's age, a dog days. I need to shake myself from this furry haze. Love a dog sage, love a dog sage. Dog's age and I'm dog-tired. Should be chasing down the dreams that I desire. Dog's age, a dog days. I need to shake myself from this furry haze. Love a dog sage. I've been looking out the window, sitting by the door, playing dog tag, hanging my head, curling my back. My tail to wag. Maybe dig a hole and I'll crawl in. Find some puppy love, start again. Cause in a dog's age I'll be dog-tired. I gotta get up and get inspired. In a dog's age I'll be doggone. Somebody help me, throw me a bone. Cause in a dog's age I'll be dog-tired. Gotta get up and get inspired. Dog's age, I'll be doggone. Somebody help me, throw me a bone. Could you throw me a bone? Throw me a bone. All right. I wrote that when I had dogs. Back in the days when I had dogs. It's been a while since I had dogs. I miss my dogs, but life goes on. All right, this next song is a song that I wrote with Marion Rossoni back in the 90s. I was in a duo called Fuzek Rossoni, and we used to tour around and open for a lot of famous folk names and play a lot of the famous folk rooms. And back in the 90s, people were very environmentally conscious, unlike now, who, I don't know what's happened, but people lost that part. This is about a man named Chico Mendes. Listen to me. This is not the way it's supposed to be. You came and paved save her, take my hand, march on. I watched out this forest like my father before me, tearing gates from the cradle to our grave. There came cattle ranchers and they moved onto our land, turning all that was green and lush to sand. 'Cause there was once a virgin forest, raped by the spoils of man. Please help me save her, take my hand, march on. Save her, take my hand, and march on. That the timber all is taken and the rain has washed away. The balance of nature now betrayed. My body has been cut down and my spirit roams free. Spare the falls the same destiny. 'Cause there was once a virgin forest, ripped by the spoils of man. Please help me save her, take my hand, march on. 'Cause there was once a virgin forest, ripped by the spoils of man. Please help me save her, take my hand, march on. March on. March on. All right. Thank you to the 3 people in the room. All right. Let's see. This is a kind of a, I want to say hopeful love song maybe. It's a song I wrote for the Rhode Island Songwriters Association Songwriters in the Round show, and the theme was Too Late. So at the time I was in a relationship and things weren't going quite the way I thought they were supposed to go, and came up with the idea that love is never too late, and that's the name of this song. Is it chemistry, gift divine, spark that fuels desire, or a trick of the mind? Listen as it whispers in your ear. You can feel the fire as it draws near. That comes in time, and it may make you wait until the heart is ready. Love is never too late. Learn the language, breathe it in, yield to the power, let the journey begin. You can't predict, can't be sure, but the touch that kisses your soul will endure. But love comes in time, but it may make you wait until the heart is ready. Love is never too late. Love comes in time, and it may make you wait until the heart is ready. Love never too late. Never too late. That comes in time. Let me make you wait till the heart is ready. Love is never too late. Love is never too late. Love is never too late. Too late. Too late. All right, this next song is probably one of the favorite songs I've ever written. It's a song that I wrote about a friend of mine, and I was talking to another friend once, and I was trying to describe my friend to her, and I called her a tumbleweed because she just never seemed to stay in one place very long. And I wrote this song about her, and unfortunately she died a couple of years ago, so it's become a kind of a bittersweet song now. But this is a song called Tumbleweed. Rolling street and strong, where tumbleweeds caught my eye. I was growing straight and strong when tumbleweeds caught my eye. Oh, she just kept rolling, and with the wind she rolled on by. I felt it breeze in my branches, but my roots are planted deep. I felt a breeze in my branches, but my roots are planted deep. Well, the solar pine became a window, and my limbs went to weep. Whoa, I cried up the river, I fell down in muddy ground. Oh, I cried up the river, and I fell down in muddy ground. Oh, when that water rose up, I floated tumbleweed bound. Here it comes. Saw her in the distance, found what I was looking for. Oh, I saw her in the distance, found what I was looking for. Oh, when those tears they dried up, I was planted on the shore. Changed direction, then she blew the other way. either way. Well, the train's not meant to travel. I guess this time I'll have to stay. Well, tumbleweed, tumbleweed, won't you blow my way again? Well, tumbleweed, tumbleweed, won't you blow my way again? Oh, just be waiting, waiting for the wind to set my tumbleweed. My tumbleweed, tumbleweed, won't you blow my way again? Oh, tumbleweed, tumbleweed, won't you blow my way again? Oh, just be waiting, waiting for the wind to send my tumbleweed, my tumbleweed, my tumbleweed. All right, that's it for me. Thanks, Motif. Woo!
Hello and welcome back to Motifs Between the Notes at the Parlour, sponsored by Trinity Beer Garden, R1 Indoor Karting, RI Blood Bank, RI Energy, and Mother Earth Wellness. I'm here with John Fuzek, who just put on a wonderful performance. How are you doing today, John?
Hot. How are you?
You're hot?
I'm always hot.
That's a compliment to yourself.
Not that hot. I don't refer to myself as hot or cool. I don't use those terms for
Give
me.
yourself some credit.
Well, I'm not very cool. I'm kind of dorky.
So did you know that you are the longest running Motif person living today? Still kicking and working for us today.
Yeah, yeah, I was one of the suckers at the beginning that I got roped
stuck
into.
around.
I got roped into it at the beginning, and I had no idea what they were doing roping me into it, but I did it, and I kept doing it, and I still keep doing it. Now I think I know what I'm doing. Back then I had no clues what I was doing. I would just babble and write like 8,000 word columns that went on for pages and pages, and I think if I didn't write, there wouldn't have been a paper.
What do you remember the first issue that you were part of? Before you answer that, I'll just say that I do. And we have it right here. Look at that.
That's the first issue that I wrote in?
Yeah, that goes back. We believe that this is from issue 12.
Issue 12? It must have been earlier. No, I think we said...
Maybe it was a little bit earlier. This is the one that we could find in the archive.
Oh, this is probably... What's the date on this one?
I think that was 2004.
Does it have a date? November. Oh, I started writing a couple of months before this.
Okay.
So, yeah, this is...
Well, that's one of the OG ones from you.
Yeah, I have the original column from back home, but... Yeah, oh, look, Rhode Island Folk Festival. That was a one-off thing that they did.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we were giving out Bob Dylan tickets.
Yeah, good luck with that.
We got to talk about your backstage experiences.
Yeah.
But first, let me just say, so you do a lot with Motif. You do Roots Report, which is another podcast that we have. You've been hosting the Music Awards for over a decade now, and you write so many articles. I mean, what is it like talking to the Roots Report? You talk to so many celebrities. You talk to up and coming artists. What's been your highlight interview so far?
It's hard to say. I mean, I've been interviewing people now for almost 20 years, and like the first interview I think I did was either one of the Blind Boys of Alabama or Los Lobos was one of the first interviews I ever did, and it was a long time ago. I mean, it was really like in the first year or two, and I had no clue what I was doing. I didn't really, I had to call somebody on my mobile phone, which was a real rinky-dink thing, and the service was bad, and I was sitting out on the deck trying to talk to everybody, and it was like I'm writing notes, trying to like quote people, and I didn't know what I was doing, and I progressed to do, better and better things, learning how to record the interviews, but I think one of my favorite interviews was, there's a few favorites, but one of my favorites was the first time I interviewed Todd Rundgren, because I talked to him for like an hour and a half, and we just went on, and we talked, and he was just hysterical. It's just he's a funny guy, and it's just there seemed like no cap on the conversation because we just kept talking, and sometimes
It really just flowed.
yeah, sometimes it just happens. We just we click and we start having a conversation, and that's what I like. I don't ever really call them interviews. I really call them conversations, because I kind of just guide the conversation with questions, and it's fun to do, and I got to talk to people like. I know you probably don't know who this guy is, but for me it was a big deal. Henry Diltz, he's a photographer. He's was in a band called the Modern Folk Quartet back in the 60s. He did the albums of like the Mamas and the Paupers and the Doors, Crosby, the famous Crosby, Stills and Nash photo of them on the couch.
Were you a bit starstruck?
No, I wasn't, because it was like these people, most of the time they're very mellow, and they're very, like, Henry is a very mellow and cool guy, and he's a conversation that I wish I had on tape, because it was before I started doing tape, and I talked to him for almost 2 hours, and he was probably one of the coolest guys and had the best stories, because not only did he shoot the album covers, I mean, he shot the Eagles' first album, he shot all the Eagles album covers and stuff, was involved in the Desperado album cover shoot, and the peyote trip out in the desert for the first Eagles album, and he told me those stories. But I mean, he's friends with Neil Young and Crosby, Stills and Nash and Joni Mitchell, and I mean, he was friends with all these people. He hangs out with these people, and he still does. I mean, he's he's 80, he's in his mid to late 80s now, and he's still out there playing. I mean. Doing photography, and he's doing talks and stuff, and I've been trying to hook up another interview with him because he's out on the road.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah, I've been trying. I'm getting a little closer, but the first one was easy because he did a show with the Narrows, which was interesting, and it actually wound up that he was doing a co-bill. I didn't even know it at the time. He was doing a co-bill with Patty Boyd. And if you don't know who Patty Boyd is, Patty Boyd was married to George Harrison and Eric Clapton, and she's the one that Layla is about, and Something, and Wonderful Tonight. She's gotten all these songs written about her, but she bounced from George to Eric. And I ended up meeting her as well, and I have a picture with her, and that was pretty cool. So whenever I play those songs, any of these songs, I say, hey, I met the person that these songs are written about. And and I have a picture with me and Henry, like, I gave him a Forever Young t-shirt, my band, because he's, a big Neil Young fan. He loved it.
I love that. So you mentioned Forever Young, so you do a lot with Motif, but I know that you're a musician.
Yeah,
so
that's my first. Yeah, that's my first thing.
That's your first talent. So tell me about your music journey. I know that you were in a duet, now you're in a full band, but you also perform acoustically, just folk.
Yeah, I've been playing. I started playing in probably. I shouldn't say the year because things will creak and the ghosts will come out, but
everybody will get a shiver down their spine.
Yeah, I think I started playing guitar in like 1974, and I've been playing for almost 50 years now, and I'm my hand is suffering. No, it's suffering the consequences of arthritis and all kinds of muscle.
We gotta get you a brace.
Tendon. Well, I usually wear the brace, but I forgot to put it on, so my hand was not functioning properly tonight. But I started playing because I always wanted to play music. From when I was probably, I think what happened was when I was in elementary school, somebody brought a guitar. I think substitute teacher brought a guitar to school and played guitar. And I thought that was the coolest thing. And I wanted to play guitar from the time I was like 5 or 6 years old, and I got a little plastic guitar when I was like 5 or 6, and that was, nobody would show me how to do anything on it, and I didn't know anything, and nobody would teach me.
Strictly just to perform for
and
your
so
parents.
That went on for a couple of years, and then finally, when I was in junior high school, I finally got a guitar and started taking lessons, and didn't do well with lessons because I'm not a very structured person.
So you're more self-taught, would you say?
I took lessons for a couple of months and then I quit. I learned a couple of chords and then quit. And I actually learned more from playing guitar sitting in the hallway with kids in high school than anything, like skipping class and playing guitar in the hallway.
Do you remember what the first song was that you ever learned? Or that you ever perfected?
I think it was a Cat Stevens song. I think it was Morning is Broken by Cat Stevens was probably one of the first songs I played. But then another one was, probably Grateful Dead songs because my high school was full of Grateful Dead heads, and they were always playing Dead songs, and it was the 70s. So But went to that, and then I wanted to play music. But then what happened was I got a job. Actually, I went to college. I went to Rick. And decided to be a music major, and that lasted all of a month.
Wow. Let's hear it for John.
I just couldn't do it. Music, it was not my thing. The whole structured music education was not my thing, and I just stopped going. And
did it take away the passion that you felt for it? It was too structured?
It took away the passion for learning it properly, yeah, because it was like math, and it really turned me off. And, they were trying to steer you towards classical or jazz, and I sang in the chorus there, and one of the cool things we got to do was we sang it was the Ocean State back then, it's PPAC now, but we sang 2.5 hours of Bach and Latin for, that was the only thing.
So you have that on your resume,
yes,
right?
It's the only thing I kept going to. I quit all my other classes, but I kept going to the chorus, and I sang that chorus with them.
You still do stuff with PPAC today, right?
I do a lot of reviews at PPAC, and I work with them on a lot of shows, do a lot of photography there, and do a lot
You're
of
just
interviews.
a jack of all trades. Tell me, so you went to college, that didn't really work out. You did the RI Songwriting Association.
Well, yeah,
right?
what happened was after I finally got back into music, there was a few years where I quit playing music because I had a girlfriend at that time I was engaged to when I was like 20, who was adamant about not wanting me to play music and not wanting me to perform. Was super
always the
jealous.
girlfriend.
Yes. So there was like a few years there, and I worked a full-time job. I ran a pinball arcade. Get that, for 5 years. I ran a pinball arcade. So I did that for 5 years. I didn't do anything. But when I got out of working there, I went back to college. I started college again as an art major, which gave me a little different thing. And I hooked up with a couple of people and started playing. Starting to try to form a duo because I wanted to play, but I didn't want to play by myself. So I went through a few duos that didn't quite make it, so I ended up performing by myself. I think my very first gig was 37 years ago at AS220 when they first opened. I was like one of the very first people to play at AS220 when it was still over PPAC. It was to be on the third floor over PPAC, and the elevator was broken, and you had to haul all your stuff up 3 flights of stairs, and there were holes in the wall, and there were probably rats running around, and it was a very divey experience. But it was a good one because that's when it started playing, and so I started doing solo stuff, but I was not fulfilled because I wasn't having fun as a solo performer.
You needed that partner.
I did. I always wanted to play in a duo, and especially wanted to play with a woman because I liked the blend of voices and the dual guitars and stuff. And
in walks Marianne.
Well, ironically, sort of, what happened is that I was running an ad in the now defunct New Paper. They used to have a thing in the New Paper where you could run an ad for as long as you want, as long as, if you're not satisfied with the results, they'll just run it forever for you. And I put an ad in there looking for somebody to play with. And there was an ad running next to mine who was a woman who was looking for a woman to play with. So
it's kind of like that if you like pina coladas.
Yeah, it kind of was. And what I did was I had already hooked up with somebody and it didn't work out. And we practiced for months, and that all went to waste again. So it was like I was on my second or third duo. I think it was my third duo that just went kaput with never playing out because one was an alcoholic, one decided he was going to do something else, and one decided they just didn't want to play. So it's like I wasted years practicing with these people. So I got frustrated. So I scribbled out this little piece of paper and I wrote, "If you're interested in being a duo and you're serious, call me." Wrote my phone number and stuck it because it was a PO box. It wasn't even a phone number, and there was no email back there. So threw it in an envelope, forgot all about it. A couple of weeks later, I get a phone call from this woman. She goes, "Hi, you answered my ad." I was like, I don't remember.
That was so long ago.
Yeah, it was like weeks. I totally forgot about it. And so we started talking, and we ended up being on the phone for like 3 or 4 hours talking. And so I left it at, I said, well, okay, I have a gig coming up next week. I said, what you can do is you can come to the gig, and I don't know what you look like, so you can come to the gig, and if you like what you hear, stick around. If you don't like what you hear, leave and never call me again.
Yeah.
So she liked what she heard. We connected, and we started playing, and
How long did you guys play together for?
7 years. Put out a couple of albums, played all over the East Coast, played a lot with a lot of really cool people.
Was that folk music, the genre?
Yeah, it was in the 90s, and there was a big folk boom, so we played a lot of the folk rooms that were happening. We even played like CBGBs and We played like a lot of places. Like there were all these like Passim before it was Club Passim. We had played Passim with the original people who ran Passim back from the Club 47 days, and we did a lot of cool folk stuff, and we did that for a while. And during that time, and we're getting to the Rhode Island Songwriters Association, there was I had a little bit of writer's block back then because I was doing too many things. I was still working it and going to school at the same time. And, she had found this little flyer on a bulletin board, and it was a thing that said Rhode Island Songwriters Association meeting next week or something. She gave it to me. She goes, maybe this will help. So I went to this meeting, and it was in some woman's house, and I didn't know any of the people, and there were like 3 or 4 people there. And they all know who I was, but I had no idea who they were, and we just sat there and talked, and I was like, well, this could be a really cool thing if, people knew about it. And I said, I could think of like a ton of people off the top of my head that would.
What year was this? There was no posting on Facebook for it.
No, it was a flyer on a bulletin board. I actually still have the flyer too.
Oh.
It's it was one of those dot matrix things.
You should make a T-shirt out of it.
I should
make a T-shirt of it.
That would be I could probably do that. That would be funny. Fun. But it was what happened was it was a woman named Mary Whelan who started it. She was a songwriter, and she had just started it. It was like a month old. And I said to her, this could be really good. And, I said, we should do this, this, and this. And she had a folder of some names that she had. And she goes, well, here, you do it. And that's what happened.
Well, I guess I'm the leader now.
Yeah, so that's what happened. It's like I quoting myself what I said back there, borrowing a phrase I learned from somebody else, as my 2 cents turned to $5, and I wound up getting, sucked into this thing for years, and it consumed my life.
For those that aren't aware, can you explain what the Rhode Island Songwriters Association is?
Well, it was a group of people. It's still going. It's 30 years old now, and it's a group of people who get together, and there's workshops, there's critiques, there's showcases, there's all kinds of stuff. When I was running it, we had showcases. We used to go to Folk Alliance as a group. We had showcases where the performers would play their music and stuff. And it's great. It's grown since then. And eventually, I got to the point where I couldn't do it anymore after years and years of doing it, because I started another organization in the process called Here in Rhode Island, which used to be the name of a festival.
Okay.
The Here in Rhode Island Festival, which I ran from 94 until like 2001. And it was similar. It was a stupid undertaking. It was stupid. It was way too ambitious, and I learned a lot from it. But it was cool. I had 4 stages. It was like 3 days. I had like 100 performers over 3 days. It was crazy. And
did you take that knowledge into the Rhode Island?
Oh
Folk
yeah,
Fest
absolutely, absolutely. I took that knowledge is what stopped me from doing anything like it again for a very long time, because when I stopped doing it, I swear I'm never doing anything like this again, because it was crazy. So I ended up, that's how I got involved with Newport Folk Festival, though, because I took the Here in Rhode Island Festival and I said, we're doing this kind of stuff. We should do a stage at Newport Folk Festival. And I talked to Bob Jones, who just passed away a couple of months ago, who was the great person behind the Newport Folk Festival. That is my inspiration and one of my mentors as far as what I do. Really great guy. Met him about 30-something years ago, and went to him and asked him if I could run a stage at the Folk Festival, and he said, sure. And he gave me a stage, and I ran a stage there for 9 years, and I brought in all local artists, and it was great. We do it, and one of the memories I have is Erin McCown playing, and she had just started playing, and she was out there in the crowd, and she had somebody selling her CDs, and you had like 15-minute sets, and in 15 minutes she sold $600 worth of cassette tapes back then. And
what are those?
Yeah, what are those? But yeah.
So during this time, was Forever Young a thing, or did it? How long has that been going on?
No,
that's Neil Young tribute band.
That was another thing. That was an overlap thing. I think that was after there's probably like a phase of my time after the Fuzek or Sony days. I kind of stopped playing music for a few years again, and started getting into it again when I recorded my Dog's Age CD around. That was like 18, 20 years ago. I recorded it, and decided I kind of half-heartedly got into music again. But it was when you go back into it after you've done it, it's like you kind of have to start all over again, and it's frustrating, especially with original music. It's a very hard thing. You have to beat your way up to the top all the time. And so this was in the early YouTube days. I was fascinated with YouTube. I was finding all these videos of songs that I loved, and I would just get mesmerized. It was kind of like when MTV first started. Yeah. I mean, I watched MTV like almost immediately and was sucked in by MTV, and it was kind of like the same thing with YouTube. And I got mesmerized by these Neil Young videos, which I'd never seen a lot of them because we never had access to them. You didn't really see most of this stuff. And so I was just mesmerized, and I was just thinking to myself, I said, it would be really fun just to go out and play Neil Young songs some night and just not stress out. But I didn't want to play cover stuff where it was all mixing up. I just wanted to do a show of Neil Young songs, acoustic. And I called up Dan Lilly, and I called up Mark Cutler, and I called up Becky Chase. They're all friends of mine, and said, do you want to do this show? And they're like, yeah, that sounds great. So we were going to do an in-the-round show of Neil Young songs. Like each person was going to play a solo Neil Young song. Nobody was going to play together. We were just going to, if we knew each other, we'd jump in with a harmony or a lead or a
Where was the first gig? And how did the first gig go? By that laugh,
well,
I'm a bit curious.
The first gig, I don't want to mention the place because I don't like the venue, so I'm not going to mention it because I don't want to denigrate the venue publicly.
Drama there.
I don't like the venue anymore, but the venue at that time, I was working with them. They've had a change of management, and the place is kind of a joke, and I don't really support it. But back then it was cool, and they were doing a lot of shows back then. But we did this show, and in the meantime, Pete Vendituale, I had run into him. He was a friend of a friend, and he decided he wanted to play too. It was like, sure, why not? We can't have enough people. So we had 5 people on stage. So anyway, we did the show. We were just saying, this would be great if we got like 20 people to the show. We'll have a blast. We get to the show, we come out to play, and there were like 250 people out there, and people were sitting in the aisles. And
a lot of Neil Young fans.
They were turning people away at the door. They couldn't fit any people, like sitting on the floor in front of I mean, it was just, there was no place to put anybody else. And we were just like, oh my gosh, how did this happen? And then they paid us, and we were like, holy shit, this is amazing.
We can really do this.
Yes, and so we were like, we just had fun, and we thought it was a one-off thing. We called the show Forever Young because one of the duos I had before Marianne and I called the duo Forever Young, and I had made a logo for it, and I had done all this work for it, and never got used. So I said, well, I'll use this, and I'll call the show Forever Young. It wasn't the band; it was a show called Forever Young. So we did it, and then pretty soon people were asking us to do the show again, and then we did it at Lupo's, played at Lupo's, and at the Strand, and we had to add a bass player and a drummer and make it a real band. So all of a sudden we had this 7-piece band, and it was like, wow. And then we started getting gigs, and eventually we added another person because we added a violin player. And then we had this huge band, and it was this big sound, and we were selling out venues and stuff, and it was crazy. And, we did that for years and years, and eventually Becky decided to retire from the band because she was going into teaching and didn't have time. And a couple of years later, Mark retired from the band because he was doing a lot of stuff with his band. The Schemers were getting busy again, and the Men of Great Courage and the Tiny String Band. And our drummer died in the process. He had cancer, and he died, unfortunately. And
but you guys are still playing today,
yeah, we
right?
were still playing. Yeah, we're
so
still 17
how
years.
Long has that been? 17 years.
And the core members, the 3 original members, myself, Dan Lilly, and Pete Vendituale are still the original members, but now we have Gary St. Germain, who's in the Renowned Music Hall of Fame from Riz. He was in the band Riz. And Sean Finnerty, who was in the Renowned Music Hall of Fame. I don't know the name of the country band he was in a country band. And Amy Bedard, who's a violin player. And Amy is somebody I've known for probably 35 years because I met her because she dated my brother like from high school. Aww. So we live a mile
Rhode
away
Island.
from each other. Yeah, it's Rhode Island. It's me, Gary, and Amy all went to the same high school like 10 years apart. And I've known Dan forever, and and the funny thing about Pete, which is like funny, is that Pete grew up next to my grandfather. And he didn't know it until like after we played our first gig. He says, "Oh, John Fuzek. I grew up next to John Fuzek. Oh, that's your grandfather? Oh, how did I not put that together?
Surprised you guys didn't end up being related, honestly, with how these things work out.
It's the 6 degrees of separation in the band, but it's a good band. It's a fun band. Yeah.
If you could play with any musician, be as creative as you'd like, who would it be?
I'd love to play with Neil Young, but I would probably hate it because Neil is. I used to work with Neil Young's former road manager at the Newport Folk Festival, and he would tell me stories about what was the word he used? I can't think of the exact word, but petulant child that Neil Young was is what he referred to as. And from my research and knowing stuff about Neil Young, I believe it. He's a tough guy to deal with.
So you are in charge of Rhode Island Folk Fest. We talked a little bit about how you got experience from your other festival for this. So how long has that been running?
The Rhode Island Folk Festival actually was started in, I can't remember if it was like at the end of, it was like in December of 2013, I think. Because what happened is I was doing the Downtown Sundown series at Roger Williams Memorial, downtown Providence, and down on South Main Street. And the ranger, John McNiff, called me up one day and says, "You have to do a folk festival here." I was like, "I don't want to do a folk festival." He's like, come on, we can do the Providence Folk Festival. I said, "I don't want to do it." Come on. I said, "I'll think about it."
Okay, fine.
So he didn't relent, and he convinced me to do the Providence Folk Festival. And I was like, all right. So I started really small and did it smart this time. Started small, did everything real simple.
Where did it start out?
At the Roger Williams National Memorial, downtown Providence, right down the hill from the State House. And that was in 2014. And we did it there for 4 years, I think, until they decided not to have events there anymore. Mm-hmm. And it changed the whole dynamic because we didn't know what we were going to do after that because we had no idea. You know, I was running this thing primarily by myself. I had a couple of people helping me at the time, but it was still primarily John doing this thing. I had a couple of people that would help me out, but it got crazy. So, you know, people wanted me to keep it going, so I had to go find a place. So I looked at a bunch of places around the state and happened upon the place across from the Louvre Carousel in East Providence. Mm-hmm. And I was like, this is perfect. And we moved it there in 2019. And it's been,
That's where it's been for the past.
That's where it's been for the past 4 or 5. We're in next year will be our 10th year.
Okay.
And
that's all local musicians, correct?
Not all local. No. We have a lot of local performers, but I bring in national performers or
primarily
regional.
Folk.
Yeah,
assuming.
Yeah, I try to keep it at the acoustic. In the unplugged fashion. Like we had the Fools play once, and the Fools are a rock band, mm-hmm. but they came in and did an unplugged set, and they were amazing. And I had this year we had Charlie Farron play. Mm-hmm. Now Charlie used to play with the Joe Perry Project, and he played with a band called Fahrenheit. He was a rock guitarist. He does solo openings in arenas for like Styx and REO Speedwagon, and he still does it, right? He came out with his acoustic guitar, played, and he owned that whole area just with his and his acoustic guitar. And so I've been booking that main. Well, we don't like. It's not the main stage. It's the band shell stage.
How many stages are there?
There were 3 stages.
3 stages, and it's always the last
Sunday in August.
Okay, everybody mark your calendars for that.
It's August. I think it's August 25th or 26th. It's the last Sunday in August, and
that'll be in Riverside.
Yes, Riverside across from the Louvre Carousel. Allison Callery and Ava Callery run the Songbird stage, which is she brings in an eclectic mix of singer-songwriters, all different styles. It's amazing. And we had a beer garden this year, so it made it you could hang out in the beer garden, drink beer, and watch the thing.
Beer and folk, it's like a match made in heaven.
And then we have Beth Barron and Anthony Lafredo who run the, we're changing the name of it because she doesn't like the emerging artist stage, but it's the emerging artist stage until we come up with a better name. It's in the gazebo, and Beth is a dynamo in the Rhode Island music world. I'm grooming her to, when I get too old, I'm hoping that she takes over everything. Hear that, Beth? I want you to take over. When I get too old and creaky, a few years down the road. But, we got a children's stage. We have Mark Cutler does a songwriter workshop. We had like 2,000 people this year.
John, you are just doing so much. For everybody out there who is curious to see what you're doing next and all the info for the RI Folk Fest, where can they follow you? Do you do Instagram, or
No.
do you know what Facebook is?
I'm on Facebook. I hate Facebook. I don't do Instagram. I don't tweet.
Is there a website? Come on,
The
shout yourself out.
Rhode Island Folk Festival is rhodeislandfolkfestival.com. The Rhode Island Songwriters Association is rhodeislandsongwritersassociation.com. I have nothing to do with it anymore, but I'll give them a plug because it's a good organization. Forever Young is foreveryoungneilyoungtribute.com. And my own website is johnfuzek.com, Fuzek. So,
Wonderful.
And then you can always listen to my stuff on the Motif RI.com website with the podcast and my columns
Report.
and the Roots Report, everything, my photographs. We didn't even touch on the photographs, but
I
photographs is something I've been doing for a long time.
We need a full few hours.
Yes, I need a
think.
documentary crew to follow me around and harass me or something.
But maybe we'll get you back here and we can pick up where we left off.
That'll be great.
All right. Well,
thank you,
thank you
Tess.
so much, John. Thank you so much to the Parlour. Thank you to our sponsors,
Thank you,
R1
Mike.
and Dark Harding, Trinity Beer Garden, RI Blood Bank, RI Energy, Mother Earth Wellness, and make sure to check out the Roots Report. I'm Tess Lyons, and we'll see you next week with Allison Calorie. Not next week, but next time. Thanks. Bye.